And yo, peace to the gods, peace to the earth, to Shaman, the King of Truth. King Truth is Allah. Coming on this knowledge understanding day. Right, peace. Yesterday, I was gonna do a build. Today's math. Today's math was knowledge. And I'm standing on my square, my understanding that knowledge equals understanding. Then we can debate what three should be. I think growth and development comes when we gain a better understanding of the lessons, right? I think that was Father Allah's intent. His idea for us to grow and develop with the right knowledge of yourself, right knowledge of self. So, to be right and exact, I still stand on, to be understanding, right? Peace. But how do I see today's math? I see today's math as knowledge plus understanding equals wisdom, right? Or wise dome. If back to 11, knowledge. So if two people, have knowledge, they have to understand each other before they can build wisdom, right? They have to understand each other before they can build wisdom. You have to understand the knowledge. You have to understand knowledge before you are wise. You have to understand knowledge before you are considered to be wise. In my opinion, based on what I've seen, is people just recite the definition, the nation of God's and earth's definition of wisdom. Having a wise dome which means they don't completely understand the knowledge, the origin of the word wisdom. See what I mean? Peace. So, so I see today's math as knowledge plus understanding equals having a winner's equals wisdom. Having a winner's mentality, having a wise dome, a person that know how to consider to win, to be a winner on a consistent basis is doing something right. They understand some kind of knowledge. See what I'm saying? So, I stick by, what part of my hairs, man. I should just, I really don't want to cut, thinking about, remember that old ad, gotta wash that gray, gotta wash this gray out, you know what I mean? Get that soap, wash the gray out, but peace. Yeah, man, so, that's how I see today's man, that now you gotta understand knowledge to be wise. See, you gotta understand when wisdom is listen, I'm going backwards. Wisdom, 3 is understanding. 2, when knowledge is right and when it is wrong. See, that's wisdom. So you gotta have understanding sits between the two, knowledge and wisdom. You gotta understand when it is wrong. Wisdom is understanding when it is wrong, when knowledge is wrong. See what I'm saying? So, and so people, we apply, we strive to apply right knowledge to live right. See what I'm saying? So, you got to understand knowledge. You see what I mean? So, yeah. So, peace. I work. That was 5 minutes, man. Y'all can, strive to cram, break down, analyze, what I said, right? Peace. 5 minutes. Peace. So, so I work. I've been working since I was like 18 years old. 18. I've been working since 18. Now, well, I had jobs before that. I was working like at 15 and a half. I was working. You know what I mean? I was, I used to work, at for Keys Group Burger King when I was 15 and a half. And my mother broke the law and let me drive to work by myself. You know what I mean? It was a temporary situation. I don't complain about the jobs I had. You know what I mean? They build character. You're supposed to learn something. Things that you do, you're supposed to learn something, right? So I work. I'm not. People get it confused. Like they say, you streets. So when people say I'm street, I get it confused. That's a slick way of saying, that you're a criminal. I'm not a criminal. See what I'm saying? I don't do no crime. I work. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, I work. I wish I could, like Bishop say, wear suits all day, don't wear no denim. You know what I mean? Wear, fine Italian shoe, fine leather, goat skin, leather, crocodile, alligator. You know what I mean? And just be, a man of leisure. But that ain't my life right now. I work. I gotta get out on the grind. I gotta learn how to build and do these trades. Somebody told a joke online. They say, what's the difference between white collar and blue collar? The dude said, white collar, they wash their hands after they pee. Blue collar wash their hands before they pee. That's the difference, you know what I mean? So, blue collar brothers and sisters get their hands dirty. They be grinding. So, I work, you know what I mean? I got this high visibility vest on. It's a requirement when you go to warehouses and manufacturing facilities and places where you got big trucks and forklifts and all these equipment, and cars moving around. They need to see it, you know what I mean? So it don't be no mistake made about your physical capability, you know what I mean? So I'm just chilling, So I'm just chilling. So I wanted, so I think the name of this episode gonna be Law and Order, right? I'm gonna just, I've been thinking about, I had to tell on some brothers. I had to tell on the Robinson brothers that broke in my house, right? Vincent and Carl Robinson. I've been knowing them dudes. I knew them dudes back in the 70s. I don't know them no more. I left them alone in 95, the beginning of 95. Like spring was coming around, right? And yeah, so I don't mess with them dudes. I left them alone in 95, right? And so that's about this. And we was running around, growing up, going to the same high school and everything, running around the town. Believe was that almost 30 years. Like a little under 30, like 27 years, 25 years, we was running around. Right, so I tell you, how long I know somebody, so you can understand, why I was, how I became associated with people of their low character. See what I mean? So they just decided to go that way, and they turned. That's where you get being two-faced. Two-faced, disloyal. It's okay. I'm not mad at people that make a decision, right or wrong, for their life. If it include me or it don't include me, I'm not mad at nobody that step back and say, this is what I want to do, and I'm gonna do it to you and whoever. They made it say it was a bad decisions that they made, but they made decisions, right? And so, you know, decisions, good or bad, got consequences. For your decisions, for your actions, carry consequences, right? It'd be good decisions give you good consequences, bad decisions give you bad consequences. So, yeah, man. So I've been knowing these dudes a long time. So, and so I left them alone, and so I heard that they robbed people. They robbed. When I left them alone, they was robbing. They went crazy. Was robbing people, robbing stores. They went to jail. You know what I mean? They was stealing car, breaking in stores and houses. They were doing all kind of sick stuff. I heard, right? So I told on them, but as I think about the things that the people they robbed, and Vincent Robinson situation. He the eldest Robinson brother out of 7. He the eldest. And so, they tell me he robbed somebody in 95. He robbed somebody, or it was either 95, 96, or 97. He robbed somebody. He armed robbed somebody. And he went to jail for 2 years. And he got out on parole, right? But he never so they say he never turned himself into parole. Never. Now, not one time did he check in to parole, right? And so they robbed this dude, stayed in our hood. We was in the Fast Stank, right? He opened up a big and tall store, and they robbed him twice. The story is they came in through the roof, then they jacked up the roll down gate on the front door. So the police come. They took fingerprints. Right, this like 99, I think. They robbed him twice, stole his car, and so I think Vincent got out in 98 or 97, 98, or he got out in 98 or 99. And when he got out, he robbed Fast Stank. Him and his brothers and some partners of his robbed Fast Stank. And they took fingerprints. Then they were stealing cars. Then like almost 10 years later. No, let me see. 10 years later, it'd be 2010. Yeah, almost like 7 years later, 8 years later, they break in my house, and the police took fingerprints. Vincent got arrested, I think, in 2020, 2019, and so what I'm saying and what I've been thinking is that the justice system has failed certain people. See, they stole Fast Stank car, like they robbed him in motherfucking 99, right? But they stole his car in 2006. If Vincent never turned himself in for parole, never turned himself on parole, and his fingerprints was at the scene of the crime, then, he should have been arrested and not been able to steal Fat Stank car and break in my house. See what I'm saying? So, they got prints back, and they never said he did it, but he admit to me that he did. He could describe the inside of my house. Vincent Robinson never been in my house. Carl Robinson never been in my house. Invited. The only way they know, how my house looked is because they broke in. You see what I mean? And they was describing things, talking shit like, who was that on your mantle? Your sofa this color, this and the third. So they done that. No doubt about it. And if the police was on their job, if the police was on their job back in 1999, 2000, they wouldn't have had no chance to break in my house, because they would have been arrested for breaking in Fat Stank's store and stealing his car. See what I'm saying? So now I don't know if they ever recovered Fat Stank car. He had a 94. What did he have? No, he had a 90-something Blazer, Chevy two-door, big body. Right? Bought it brand new. And if they recovered it, if the police found it anywhere and took the prints, then Vincent Robinson, Carl Robinson prints would be on it. You see what I mean? So, see, like I said before, I talked to the Detroit prosecuting attorney, and he said Prince come back, and it was some dude that was dating some girl that lived across the street. But he said he went in the house when he saw them leave. So he seen them go. I'm not gonna say his name, but the Wayne County prosecutor know who it is. Seen them go in the house, and when they left, he went in. He just curious, I guess. Now he a criminal. I mean, he had run-ins with the law, and he got in trouble for something else, and his prints was in my house, and they, charged him with some shit. But and they called me and notified me, but I said I don't know him, and it took like some people to move all the shit they stole from me. I had a floor model, big screen TV, stereos, shit like this, TVs. So, man, that that dude, he not, but so so Vincent in jail today. He got arrested for something else. He got arrested for trust. He didn't want to leave his girlfriend's house because he didn't have nowhere to go really, and they violated him on trespassing and ran his name, and he had a motherfucking parole violation. So, but if I'm thinking, if my thinking is correct, he should have been arrested when his fingerprints come back in Fat Stank's store. And Fat Stank told me back in the day that they never gave him an update on the fingerprints they found in the store. Now we can assume the people that done that should be in the system. They done it twice. You see what I mean? So they should be in the system. Them weren't new robbers. You know what I mean? Yes. So, yeah, man. Yeah, no. You know what I mean? No. So, yeah, man. The justice system in Detroit need to do better. You know what I mean? They need to do better. Right? So, yeah, they need to do better. Right? So, So that's all I want to talk about, man. You know, all I want to talk about, man. You know, people, it sounds like a lawsuit. You know, Fat Stank may have a lawsuit. I may have a lawsuit. See what I mean? If they didn't, when they ran the Prince and his Prince come back and they saw that he was in parole violation, you know, they should have turned up the heat on him, because they went back and robbed his store again. Then they stole his car. Then they broke in my house and broke in my car. I didn't say nothing when they broke in my car, but they broke in my, they bust my windows out. They, you know, stole CDs, a jack, you know. So, you know, man, that's all. I'm out. Peace.